Okay, Fred, you're up with the lake level presentation.
Yes. I presented it last week. I think Colleen sent everybody the written proposals, and basically the intention here, as I stated, is to preserve water in the lake. That's the primary intention. In the last 2 years, we've had excessive rain. There's difficulty even lowering the lake now because we had 3 inches of rain last week, and the lake went up almost 6 inches right in the middle of the process of lowering it. It was down from 9 feet to 8 feet 1 inch, and then it went back up to 8 feet 6 inch. So it's coming down again. They had to accelerate the drawdown. But again, this is going back to a very severe situation which we had some years ago, where businesses around the lake actually sued the DEP. It eventuated in a court case and a settlement, and there was a lot of fighting and disunity among lakefront businesses and tenants and people living around the lake. And in recent years, because of the new problems we've had, like the haves, the lake community has really come together. And so my suggestions are kind of a compromise to try to make everybody happy, that we won't risk not having enough water in the lake, or we'll decrease the risk of that without harming other things. And so this compromise presentation is what this represents. Basically lowering the yearly drawdown by an additional 4 inches, making it 18 instead of 22. And this means it could be started a little later in the year and completed easier, and that would extend the boating season and again save 4 inches of water. The other part is the 5-year drawdown, which we feel needs to be continued for major repairs and construction. But to try to accelerate it by a small amount, but enough to allow completion much sooner, by October 25th. And that would allow the refill to begin sooner, which would allow for 2 extra weeks of allowing the lake to refill. And it would also allow any construction to be done in better weather. So the last time that we presented, it was a little different. It was a more radical presentation, and the commission voted on it and agreed to support it. And we presented that to the CAC with the commission's backing. The DEP did not accept all the recommendations, but they did agree to reduce the drawdown by 4 inches. And as far as we can tell, that's been successful. So I'm recommending that we recommend that these issues to the CAC, and they will hopefully recommend that to the DEP. That doesn't mean that any of this will happen. It just means that we support it, and we may have some influence on the DEP's decision.
You did a good job, Fred, and you got some good rationale, and it'll be in time for Josh's next CAC meeting. So maybe the timing is good because they're getting ready the scientists are getting ready to do something. So anybody have any questions or comments on Fred's report?
I have a comment or two. I can fully support the recommendation as it concerns the 60-inch drawdown, because, Lord knows that should start sooner. We should be able to work in better weather, and it will be nice to close the dam up earlier and get the lake level back. I do have very serious reservations about going from what seems to be 22 inches to 18 inches. whether anybody knows it or not, we are still technically within the pilot program, which reduced the annual drawdown from 26 inches to 22 inches. This annual drawdown started out many years ago in the 30s as 36 inches or 3 feet. Then it was reduced to 30 inches, then 26 inches. We are now at the pilot program of 22 inches, and now this discussion is to reduce it to 18. The pilot program, which reduced it from 26 to 22, we still haven't had any meaningful feedback or data on this pilot program because we haven't had a real serious winter since 2014, 2015. We also had one that was really bad in 13 to 14. The pilot program came into play after that. My fear is that if we play with this further and we go down to 18 inches and we have we have a bad winter with lots of ice, we're going to have issues with ice creep. Where if we have a really bad icy winter, the ice tends to creep up the shoreline and push anything in its way out of its way. So the further down the lake is, the less risk there is for damage due to ice creep. One of the other reasons for having the drawdown, annual drawdown, was to allow for the spring rains. If we have a lot of rain, having a buffer, room for the lake to rise is a help. Dr. Steinbaum just mentioned the fact, and I was going to mention it, but he did, but I'll just touch on it briefly. This rain that we had on November 30th, just shy of 3 inches of rain, you saw how the lake came up in half a foot in no time. If we have a couple of those storms, late February, early March, the lake comes up, then the ice starts to bust up. We're going to have huge sheets of ice, tens of acres in size, coming across the lake and crashing into things. I think we're much better off if the water is lower when that happens as opposed to higher, because if it's lower and it crashes up against a shoreline and busts up and piles up, it's going to have to climb higher than it would if the water is already high. So I'm very concerned about this one in particular. My recommendation would be that we accept the second half about the 60-inch drawdown and leave this annual drawdown proposal for further consideration and study under this pilot program.
Let me respond to that, if I may. I know you've been against the first part from the beginning, even lowering it the 4 inches, which the DEP did, and they call it a pilot program. And they asked for people to report if they had any additional damage as a result of the 4 inches that were saved. And there was no real reports. And you know, your argument is that we really didn't have a bad winter. All I can say is I lived on both sides of the lake virtually all my life. I've had docks destroyed. I lost a boathouse to ice. The time that the ice is really destructive is when it breaks up and it flows. And when that happens, if it happens during a storm that's blowing it toward your shore, it doesn't matter how high the water is. It doesn't matter what you do to protect it. The ice will destroy everything. And really, in my humble opinion, it's more important to save water in the lake. And I don't think this extra 4 inches in any way can increase ice damage. So Dan and I have disagreed on this since we first discussed it probably 10 years ago. And I think that most people agree with me. But I guess we'll see. Evidently, the DEP agreed because they agreed to lower the outflow, to lower the amount. So they must have agreed.
Well, I do have to take exception to this whole pilot program thing and the fact that there was no reports of damage. If you have a series of mild winters, which we've had, you're not going to have ice, let alone the possibility for ice damage. So sooner or later, with the luck of the draw, the way things are going to go, we're going to have a very serious winter, and then we're going to have an issue. So that's a grave concern to me. The other thing you mentioned the ice flows. That's correct. And that actually buttresses my point, because the higher the lake, the higher the level of the lake, and these sheets of ice, tens of acres in size, come floating across, the higher the lake is, the more dock damage you're going to have. So yes, that is a very serious concern, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact of the damage that ice creep can cause. If anybody has any doubts about what ice creep can do or what it looks like, I would invite you to look at the current water level management plan. There are multiple pictures in there that I took which document ice creep. And if you look at those pictures, you can see how the ice creeps up the shoreline and causes damage. This is not during the spring thaw. This is during the dead of winter as things start to warm up and the ice starts to expand. It pushes anything that's in its way out of the way. And the higher the lake is, the closer the ice is to the shore, and the more damage that you risk. So,
Well, in essence, people are protecting their docks and their waterfront with some form of bubbler or ice eater device.
And we know that, and we know we got a committee studying the negative and deleterious effects of that. So all this stuff ties hand in hand. So when you move your left finger, your right toe is going to move. You need to understand the connection, cause and effect. One thing will definitely have an impact on the other.
If we have a dry season again, like we did, we're going to have a war here on this lake again. All the good work that the foundation, and I must compliment Marty and the foundation on that, all the good work that they've done to kind of bring people together, the towns and the businesses and the homeowners around the lake, all that's going to go up in smoke again when the suits start. And if you don't have enough water in the lake, you don't have a boating season, and that's really trouble. And I just don't agree that the risk of the ice damage is increased by 4 inches.
Well,
So
again,
that's our difference of opinion.
It's from 20, it went, as I said, from 36 to 30 to 26 to 22, and now you're proposing 18.
There must be a reason that everybody wants to lower it, Dan.
Well,
That makes my point. There's got to be a reason.
No, it's just, we're on the 26 inches that is in the plan. That's the number 26, which is locked in the plan, not 22. 22 is based upon a pilot program, and we were going to wait and see after we had a typical winter what effects there would be, what type of damage there would be. And I understand you're worried about lawsuits if the lake doesn't come up, but if you have damage to docks, that's also going to beget the possibility of lawsuits. So I think, we should exercise caution here. We should wait until we have answers to this pilot program and be conservative and see what happens.
There are two other things that we're probably not considering either. Some people still work on their docks themselves and don't hire contractors, and they'll typically do that. Maybe they'll take a week of vacation before Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's. So if you start refilling the lake on December 1st, you're really going to inconvenience them. Another thing that I don't think you're thinking about is weed control too. We need lower water during an extended freeze period to do more damage to the weeds, to curtail their growth in the subsequent season. And the extended freeze really doesn't happen until you get into January.
So you're supporting both items.
Not even close.
Well, Mr. Chairman, should we call for a vote of support?
Yes,
or?
let's go. Let's again. Anybody else have any? Without repeating ourselves, maybe it's just time to take a vote and see where we stand on this.
I have a question.
Sure.
Fred?
Yeah, it's me.
Is there any scientific basis, one way or another, for going with this lake level?
The problem is it's all based on weather. And what we know is those
You know, we can't
extended
control it.
freezes aren't as common as they used to be because of climate change. I can say that. So using it to control plants, it just makes it more and more difficult. But with that said, the models of climate change do see these wide swings in terms of weather. We are due for another heavy winter. Whether we get one or not, it's the roll of the dice. It's real difficult for me to try to put this in a scientific point of view because it's so pitted in, the management of docks.
Yeah, because even if it's a 10-year cycle of getting warmer, it doesn't mean you can't get one bitter cold winter.
Correct. As a matter of fact, it will still happen. It may not happen as frequently, but it will certainly still happen.
So if we get,
What about another drought?
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
another drought.
droughts as well. But what we're seeing are these wider swings. So we'll go through a prolonged drought, and then all of a sudden we get 2 to 3 inches of rain. So instead of instead of getting these small to moderate storms, now we have prolonged droughts, and then we get like a heavy storm, prolonged drought, heavy storm, and that's again ties to the HABs. It's one of the reasons why we see HABs more is because you're putting all that water in, but if the water level's already down, water's not leaving, the algae are using those nutrients. I mean, I could go on, but I'm not going to.
Well, Marty will tell you, you read the old Hapakon Times magazines, as we do every month, even in season here. We're talking about the same thing we've been talking about for the last 50 years. Am I right, Marty? Nothing's changed.
Yeah, you're
Except the weather.
You're absolutely right. The real solution,
What works.
the real solution here is impossible for us because we're overdeveloped. The real solution, I've talked about it, I've seen it on other lakes. Docks should be removable in the winter. We shouldn't have boathouses. We shouldn't have concrete walls around the lake. They should be natural. They should be rock.
The Fred is the point is we do have these things, and I don't see boathouses and docks disappearing overnight. So we have to worry about protecting them.
We can go on, and I don't want to bore everybody. So I'd say let's call a vote. Whether or not.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one suggestion in that I see a dichotomy here? Could we split this into 2 parts, part A and part B, and have a double vote so that maybe others can decide they want to go for both or go for one?
okay, so why don't we vote on the obviously easy one? The second part is the 60-inch drawdown.
So you need a motion?
I make a motion that we vote on my proposal for the 60-inch drawdown.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comments or questions? Let's call a roll, please.
Zochek,
Yes. Willing to try anything.
Fish,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
McCarthy,
The 60-inch, yes.
Wazowski,
Abstain.
Steinbaum,
Yes.
Stevens,
Abstain.
Tessier,
Yes.
Gilfillan,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes. Okay, now there's a motion on Fred, since it's your proposal, the motion on the first part.
Yes, I make a motion that we accept the first proposal of lowering the annual drawdown from 22 inches to 18 inches.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Comments, questions? I guess we talked it to death. Would you call a roll, please, Colleen?
Zochek,
Yes, again, willing to try anything.
Fish,
Abstain.
Ooh.
Overcamp,
No.
McCarthy,
No.
Ozowski,
Abstain.
Steinbaum,
Yes.
Stevens,
Abstain.
Tessier,
I mean, I can't answer the question, but I'll vote yes, just for Fred.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Gilfillan,
If it's a problem, we can go back.
Abstain.
Smith,
Yes. Now, well, how many yeses and how many abstentions you got?
got 4 yeses and 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions, 2 noes.
So it passes.
That's, yeah. The abstentions go with the majority, do they not?
They do.
It passes. All right, well, thank you all.
But now again, this just goes to the CAC now, and then it
Right.
goes to D.
Right.
They may refuse any of this.
They did last time.
Yes, so it's just, I'm just going to present it, there were objections. Thanks very much for considering it. I'm done.
Okay.